look at weed control today, how to control weeds, because it's the one area of gardening that you don't hear that much about, and it's probably, to have an easy garden, a garden that you get the maximum amount of enjoyment for the least amount of effort, you have to control your weeds. Now, some of the modern gardening people say let it all hang out, let the whole thing go whichever way it wants. That never worked. If you don't control your weeds, if you don't keep on top of your weeds, the weeds will control you, and it will be very difficult to garden, and you might as well not bother gardening. You might as well just get the quarter moonshine and sit in your shack watching the sun go down. So anyway, we'll start with annual weeds over here. Before we start, I want you to look at that plant. That's Cotinus Grace, and it's a really, really nice plant. Very spready. It's a hybrid between the American and the European species, but it is quite beautiful. But I made a bit of disgrace of grace. What happened was, with the lockdown, I bought myself, had to treat myself to something, you know, sort of comfort buying, so I bought myself a little chainsaw. And yesterday I went to this Cotinus Grace, and there was a few little dead bits in the top, so I got my chainsaw and cut a few dead bits, and then I noticed there was a bit going out that way, and I nipped that off. And then the thing about the chainsaw is you think you do, it's just that quick. So, and then there was a bit on the other side because I'd unbalanced it by cutting too bit, so I had to sort of cut a bit off the other side, and then it was getting a bit long relative to its width, so I had to take a bit, and then at that stage I just got the chainsaw, did a full ramble, and this is what I've ended up with. Because it's the start, not even mid-July, that will be fully furnished again. But what it has done, it has opened this place here, and we're going to replant that. But it has shown it what the Grace was doing. It was pushing the plants down to get at the sun. But what we would have to do here, because it's only the second week of July, the rest of July, all of August, all of September, we'd go in quite hard on this rose, like this. I know it looks a bit extreme, and this needs a drop of oil. I should have oiled it before I started. And this is a video about weed control, but we're doing a bit of plant control. It's nearly a bit more, and they'll do the same with the other one. And that'll reflower in the middle of August. That will be a perfect flower, and it'll be much tighter, it'll look much better. We're going to do the same with the Geranium Rozanne, sort of flopped out. Cut that back, and that will reflower. Now we look at the weeds. Now, the first method of weed control is called a fat method. Finger and thumb, that's called a fat method. And we look here. You use the fat method here because you can't, because it's too close to the plants. This is an Aconitum, which was totally hidden by the Cotinus, and it's fallen over, so we'd have to cut it back. But that's the first method. Finger and thumb. And by the way, we have some ivy here. And how do you get rid of ivy in the garden? Fat method, finger and thumb. That's how you get, or the entire hand. That's the only way. Ivy is very tenacious and it never stops, but it's slow. So if you keep control of it, and you cannot turn your back on it. Just every year, or anytime you see ivy in the wrong place. The funny thing about ivy, a Polish fellow here a few years ago, and he said, "You have ivy growing on your trees." He was just amazed, because part of Poland he was from, they couldn't grow ivy, and he thought we were so lucky to be able to grow ivy everywhere. And I said, "Well, wait you spend the day picking ivy out and getting stung by the brambles and the nettles and all." He won't say that, but anyway, because he couldn't have it, he wanted it. But that's the first method, finger and thumb, and then you have your hoe, and that's just, you just hoe weeds out like that. then what I would do with this then, I would put a mulch on it. And this is, I'll show you mulch. We'll look at a mulch over here and see what, show what it does. That was one we did on the video actually. It's coming on really well. That was only done in the last video. We use mini chip bark, and what happens here, it always moves. It doesn't lock. So when a little weed seed falls on top, it gets washed down between the layers, and it can't get at. The sun can't get near it, so it won't germinate. That's all it does. It won't stop really strong weeds which will burst out. But that's a great way of stopping maybe 95% of the weeds, and then the other 5% the fat method. Now, oh, what have we got here? Oh yes, catmint was cut very hard back this year, as I said before, which I was against, and it's the best it's ever been. So that's what you do with catmint. It'd be really, really hard. And with silvery plants like that, which are sort of Mediterranean plants, never cut them back before, we'll say, the end of February. Just wait till they start growing and then cut them back hard. And look at, very common plant, the Hypericum Hidcote. Because it's common, it doesn't mean it's great. It is great, but look at this plant in here, you'd miss it if you didn't look close. Ain't that something else? What blue is that? How blue is that? Isn't that just amazing? That's a sea holly. Sea hollies don't like where it's planted. That sounds a bit wrong. They like to be in an open situation because they are by the sea, and sea situations tend to be open and sandy and lots of wind and stuff, and very, very well drained soil. If you have an open situation and sunny spot, very well drained soil, you put in a sea holly. That one is called Big Blue. They could live forever. Now we're going to move on to the perennial weeds. The perennial weed, we don't have any perennial weeds generally in this garden because we're rootless with them, because they're the ones like bindweed and ground elder. Bindweed is one that goes up with a lovely white flower, related to the morning glory, the blue morning glory. But they are if they get in, very hard to get rid of, and if they get in amongst other plants, in amongst the roots of other plants, sometimes you have to take the whole border apart to sort them out. But it's one of these, it's one of the things that, it's one of these weeds, these perennial weeds that are generally brought in. Most of them don't come in by nature. People bring them in as a present on a plant. They get in, and if they get hold, they can make your gardening life, your gardening work, a misery. So we're going to look at one that happens to be here. I happened to spot it a week or two ago, and I left it for the video. Go through here. I spotted this here. This Geranium Brookside and Hosta halcyon, and I spotted this weed here. Not the willow herb, which is everywhere and just has to be hand weeded, but this weed here. See it there? That's called creeping Sow Thistle. And if that was left alone, next year creeping Sow Thistle will cover this area. The following year it would cover that area. And how would you get rid of it from the Eupatorium? You would have to dig out the Eupatorium. You would have to dig out everything to get rid of it. So I just caught it in time, because I've worked in gardens years ago, old Victorian, remnants of old Victorian gardens full of these type of weeds, and we'd spend days and days and days weeding, and you come back and same carry on again. So I always decided, when I get my garden, my own garden, I'm not going to give these weeds an inch. Well, we dig it out, and I saw a video about digging bindweed, and they used sort of a spadey thing. You always use a fork because you don't want to break the roots. You can go into the weed with a fork and not break it. And we'll have a look. Now we just I think we got it all. But it's very important, and this is probably nearly as important as the initial digging out, is the follow-up, because you often miss a little tiny piece and you forget about it, and the following year back to square one. Now we'll have a look at the weed root, what the problem is. See the way it was running along, and every time it starts a new plant up, the new plant sends out its ones. It's a bit more like these chain letters that you had years ago, and it will just get out of hand. It's actually quite lovely. It's related to dandelion and related to lettuce. It's actually quite a nice yellow flower, but not for the garden. And what we'll do here is I'll get the whole lot of this, and I won't put it in the compost heap, put it in the wheelie bin. Put it in there. That's the only thing I will not compost, in fear that I'll bring it back out again. So stuff like that, get rid off the site. Now, next we're going to do another video shortly, and it won't be about weeds. It'll be about looking at all the plants that we have and how to. Now it's about time just to finish. That's good. This fork. A lot of the roses, they're over their first flush, and a lot of them, because we had so much rain, a lot of them went like this. So go through them. This is the lazy man's way. That's if you're in a hurry, if you have lots of roses, you can do this. But what you're supposed to do, this here. This is a rose called Bonica, absolutely superb. And by first week, second week of August, you'll have a second flush, and then with a bit of luck, we'll have a third flush, bringing us right into winter. Okay, that's it for weeds from the weed front. Thank you.